I remember sitting on the bed of my dorm room and just watching the families move their kids in. And at that moment, I said, this is not for me. Like, I don't belong here. I'm not one of these kids. I belong back in that small town. And this big part of me kept saying that. But there was something that kept me there.
What is the thing or things that you've had to quit in order to become successful?
I certainly had to quit
thinking it was too
the
big.
person that I was to get here.
being afraid that I was going to make mistakes. I quickly learned that the road to success is paved with failure.
So would you rather have a superpower or a super friend?
Wow, that's a great question.
That is a
Super
tough.
friend is very subjective, so I'm going to go superpower.
All right. Sweet or a spicy or a sweet snack?
Ooh, I try to stay away from both, but gun to my head, I'll say sweet.
All right. Fishing or hiking?
The beach.
Nice.
So I'll go fishing. I'll pick fishing. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Welcome back, you guys, to another episode of Successful Quitters. This is actually the first episode of 2025. And I've had a couple of difficulties getting it going with the setup, which is crazy. And it reminded me of how great it is to be an entrepreneur, because it is always, I choose to do it. I don't have to do it. And so that's how we're kicking off this 2025 for our podcast. Today we have someone very special. He's had 10 years of experience within the real estate, property management, and real estate industry in general. He is the founder of Alignment Real Estate in New York City, and he is also the CEO for Executive Chauffeur, something that is similar to Uber Black. Welcome, Mathiew Wilson.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, and I'm very excited to have a great conversation today.
Absolutely. So great to have you. Mathiew, we're going to take you back in time, and so that you can tell us what was life like at around 5 years old?
Life around 5 years old was very chaotic. Both of my parents were alcoholics. My dad was a drug addict. My mom had a lot of mental issues growing up. She was suicidal. So around 5, my parents were still together. We were living in Pensacola, Florida, and it was just chaotic. That's chaotic is the best word to describe it. But with that said, I also had a lot of great memories. I had a big family. There was 5 of us kids, and it's interesting, the human mind, especially young human minds and kids, when even you're in a terrible situation and all your little mind is thinking about is survival. There's also, you kind of just block it out a lot of the times, and it's not till later in life where it catches up to you. You have to go back and fix it. But so we still had a lot of fun. I used to beat up my brother Brian all the time. And now we're best of friends. So, but that was my life at 5 years old.
So were you the fourth one?
I was the middle. So I have an older a half brother. We have different fathers. And then there's 4 of us with the same mom and dad, my sister, then me, and then 2 younger brothers.
It seems that that whenever children go through a lot of difficulty, they also develop a lot of creativity. You kind of have to create more of an alternative world to what you're having at home. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would say that's true, and that's a great point. You don't know what you don't know, and if all you know is negativity, stressful situations where there's drinking and there's yelling, that's all you know. And so when kids grow up in that environment, to your point, yeah, it's imperative to go out and explore different things. A lot of people nowadays say that college isn't worth it and you can go out and be an entrepreneur right away. When I went to college about 15 years ago, the internet wasn't what it is today. And today there you could find any resource. But back then, I didn't know anything. And so going to college really helped me expose to different things, to more positive things. And it showed me that there's other things in life that all the things that I experienced as a kid. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, you have to, but that's the beautiful thing about life. We create our own reality.
Yes, absolutely. And do you remember if you had a hero back then?
You know, my mom had a lot of demons, and she did the best she could. The one thing she did was get up and work every day. So I saw what hard work was very early on. And that's instilled in me today. So I think of her as one of my heroes. You know,
Hmm.
even though um, a lot went on, she was one of my heroes. And the other person I will say is there was this guy that lived down the street from me, just an amazing guy. His name is Chemo, and he let me and my brothers work for him in the summer. He had a painting business, and he would just always instill these little nuggets into us about making good decisions and things like that. But I really looked up to him. I really, really looked up to him. He had this big house. He had this great family, and so really at a young age, I would say those two people, my mom and then this guy by the name of Chemo.
It's amazing because most of the people that I have interviewed, obviously everyone has a story and everyone has a past, but what I see every single time is that there's this kind of engine that shows up throughout your life and difficulties at a younger age that not necessarily saves you, but always that support actually allows you to move to the next step, which is very powerful. And sometimes this happens with people at school, teachers, even your peers. So, how was at your early ages of school? How was it to go to school knowing that your life was chaotic, but this was something that you had to do?
Yeah. Um, it, I was a class clown. I used school in getting in trouble and trying to be an idiot in class to get laughs as my way to kind of be accepted by the other kids. So I got into a lot of trouble. I got suspended a lot. I got in a lot of fights, but I had a lot of fun. And I was a freshman in high school, and all my siblings had dropped out of high school. And I was headed down the same path. And then I started playing basketball. And I had an older friend who was a good student, really good basketball player, and I wanted to emulate him. And I failed a math class my freshman year, and I wasn't going to be able to play unless I got my grades up. And so I said, shit. Well, if I want to play basketball, I got to get good grades. So that's when I started to really focus on school. And then once I started to focus on school, like you said, there was these kind of angels that reached out. You know, there were a couple of teachers that pulled me aside, that said me some really nice things and guided me along. And then there was my uncle, my mom's brother. I was about 15 years old, and he came and picked me up. He was the most successful guy that I knew. I grew up in a tiny town in Hillsborough, New Hampshire. Very few wealthy people. It's kind of just, there's a light bulb factory, and kind of everyone just worked there. And my family was the poorest family in town. My uncle picked me up and brought me for a ride in his BMW convertible. And that was just opened up my consciousness so much. That's why I'm in real estate today. He wasn't a real estate broker, but he had a construction company. So I always associated real estate with you could, have this better life. Um, and so, yeah, that had left a really big imprint on me. But yeah, it was the basketball thing actually that switched my mind to school, and I started to take it more seriously.
Yeah. And to your point, it's so great to understand how much of an impact it can have to be exposed to things, because you cannot be unexposed. And this
Yeah.
is what happens in this world, where we have so much information and we can actually see through the internet, if we don't have someone next to us, what is possible. What was your favorite subject in high school? Did you have a favorite subject, or was it just about sports for you?
I was really, it's funny that I failed algebra my freshman year because I was very strong in math. It comes very easy to me. So I didn't mind math. I mean, we had a gym class I enjoyed that. Um, I wouldn't say there was classes that I like, but it's also kind of how I invest today. I'm kind of talking this out now. I've never really thought about this. There was teachers that I really liked. So by association, I liked their class. Like there was a teacher by the name of Mr. Walker, just a really cool guy. And I don't even know what subject he taught in high school, but I know he was the man and he made you feel wanted when you were in his classroom, um, which is kind of how I evaluate companies. I look at the leader of the company versus the business itself. So I would say I had some teachers that I really liked versus subjects.
Yeah. And so high school is about to be over with, and you have to make a decision, right? Because you see your siblings dropping out, and how do you approach what your next step is going to be?
So I wanted to play basketball in college. And so there's a few options of schools I could go to, but I had no money, zero money. And I needed, I think it was $14,000 more. Like I had gotten a lot of aid because we were poor, but I still had this gap. And so um, I was submit, I'm just not going to go. I can't afford it.
Yeah.
And then I had a conversation with my uncle, the wealthy uncle who gave me a ride in his BMW. And he agreed to co-sign a loan for me to go to college. I said, all right, well, I'm going to go and I'll try to play basketball when I get there. And a few weeks before I was set to go off to college, my mom tried to commit suicide. I was 18 years old. So when that happened, my life was kind of thrown upside down. And I really wasn't going to go to school. Really wasn't going to go. I had a good friend of mine, his nickname's Burger, and I was just going to like work with him and just party with him and kind of figure out my mom's life situation. But I decided to go. And I remember sitting on the bed of my dorm room and just watching the families move their kids in. And at that moment, I said, this is not for me. Like, I don't belong here. I'm not one of these kids. I belong back in that small town. And this big part of me kept saying that. But there was something that kept me there. I stayed. I started classes. I tried out for the basketball team. I didn't make the basketball team, which is another hard thing I went through. And then I met a really good friend of mine till this day. It's funny, we're like 16 years later. I don't know how many years later, 18 years later, we live in the same building here in New York City. But wow. my college roommate in my first school is a kid by the name of Chris Brickley. He's become a famous NBA trainer. He's famous in the fashion world. He convinced me to start working for the basketball team. And so I then started to go that route. And we were at Southern New Hampshire University for a year. And then he transferred to play for the University of Louisville. And he calls me one day after transferring and said, yo, you got to come to school here. There's 25,000 kids that go to school here. It's amazing. So I thought about it. I said, all right, I got nothing else going on. So I would follow. So I just kind of kept following the opportunities that basketball gave me through college. But that's kind of how I got out of the small town and got into college.
Yeah. And it's powerful how you listen to your conscience and kept going when everything seemed like it wasn't for you. That's the most important thing ever, And this is something that we don't necessarily talk about much, but conscience, whatever it is that we're hearing deep inside of us, it's kind of like a GPS that is telling us, hey, keep going straight, make a right, make a left. And sometimes we go, nah, because of fear or because of other things, other factors.
Yeah, I agree. It's call it God, call it your intuition, call it the higher power energy. And it's interesting. Men and women have it, but I believe women have it a little stronger. I don't know. It's because they also give life and they're connected. But the women in my life, I try to listen to them. I got my operations manager, Rosie, my marketing director, Jessica, my founding partner here, Sunani. It's like sometimes they just know, and it doesn't logically make sense, but they just know, and they have that intuition. And I don't know what it was when I was sitting on that bed back in college, but something, like you said, something inside of me told me to stay and stick it out.
Yeah. And in reality, I mean, it's inside of everybody. It's just that some of us develop it a little more. Like you said, sometimes females have it or females have it stronger.
Yeah,
However, it is available to everybody.
sure.
And I don't want to take lightly the fact that, you know, you went through someone that was trying to commit suicide, because there might be people out there, you know, younger people that are going through the situation that you went through. So, how do you navigate something so rough in your life? And how are you able to, do you just shut down that noise from your mom going through it? Do you go back to her and say, hey, is everything okay? How are you able to get through that part of your life?
How I got through it was not how I would advise people to go through it, but how I went through it is I ran as far as I could from all of my problems. And I did that through my whole 20s, and it wasn't until I was in my 30s it caught up to me. Um, it took me a long time to process things. It took me a long time to come to terms with things. You know, I carried a lot of the night my mom tried to commit suicide. My brother and I had come home from hanging out one night, and we were very poor, so her bedroom was the living room, and she was crying on her bed with her back face to us, and it was that her crying wasn't anything, you know, out of the ordinary. She would cry herself every single night after drinking. So we snuck by her. So instead of consoling her, we snuck by her. And that night she tried to commit suicide. So I carried that for years. I should have said something. I could have done something. What are my shortcomings as a son? I would advise people to face it head on. I ran from it. And that's how I got through it. I just ran from it. And it wasn't until later on I had to start dealing with things.
Yeah. And are you there? Did you come to a point to where are you working on forgiving yourself? Is this something that has stayed with you and you think is going to stay? Where are you at with that?
So that's what I would suggest to people. I forgave myself a few years back. You know, I was about 4 or 5 years ago. I was in a really dark place, and I had to figure out how to get myself out of that. A big thing that turned in my mind was forgiving myself.
Mhm.
And I have come to the belief that we're all doing the best that we can. I'm doing the best that we can. I was doing the best that I could as a kid. Any horrible thing that I said or bad decision that I made, maybe I yelled at my mom and we got in a fight, and then she tries to commit suicide the week later. I was a kid. You know, I had to let that shame go, let that guilt go. And that is an uncomfortable thing for us as humans to do, because we all talk shit to ourselves a lot of the time. You know, almost exclusively, we all talk worse to ourselves than we do to anybody else in our life. And I had to stop doing that and forgive myself and accept the fact that I'm doing the best that I could. And now, once I believed that, I said, well, if I'm doing the best that I can, and I truly believe that, so was my mom. So was my dad. So was anybody who ever said anything negative to me or screwed me over or whatever. So that's, once you come to those realizations, it's like you just lifted a backpack full of bricks off your back. It's just, you're so much lighter. And so
Yeah.
that's how I walk around today. I'm at peace with everything, with my mom, with my dad, you know, with my life.
And that is freedom, because if not, we're living within our victim environment. Or that way, then we're like, oh, this happened to me, that happened to me. And obviously it hurts to go back and think about it, obviously. But still, if you're able to forgive yourself and understand that you did everything that you could with what you had, with what was given to you, with what you knew back then it's okay. Now you're a different human living a different kind of lifestyle.
Mhm.
but I bet there are a lot of people, not just a younger crowd, but people that go through this. And the heaviest thing that we can have is that I should have, I could have, that regret just it's so heavy to continue to carry, that it's nice that you were able to unload some of that.
Yeah, you got to get rid of it. And like you said, the victim mentality. It doesn't help you at all to think that way. You got to get rid of it, because you get rid of it, you can move forward. But we all don't think we're worthy of it, but we all are. No one knows what they're doing on this earth. It's just a spinning rock, and we're all just here trying to figure it out. We're all doing the best that we can.
Yeah.
We are. And if anybody out there has made a mistake or said something to somebody or did something, think back. Maybe you were going through something leading up to that, and you just made a snap decision, and it was a bad decision. At that moment, at that level of consciousness, you were doing the best that you can. Just let it go.
Yeah. Something interesting that I learned in 2024 is that you actually, in relationships, how you're like, but like this person should treat me that way, or that person should treat me that way. It's like, it's because you're picturing what you would do if you were that person.
Mm.
But that person is not you. You are not that person. So the expectation also kills us. So
Absolutely.
forgiveness comes with letting go of expectations, so we can actually breathe and live happily.
Absolutely. Expectations are the thief of joy.
Definitely.
Expectations are the thief of joy. Yeah, it happens a lot in relationships. It happens a lot in business. A lot of us entrepreneurs, we've done the millionaire math where it's like, okay, I need to sell this amount this week, and that can make $1 million. And it never goes that way. Relationships never go. The vacation you're planning never goes to the expectation. So that's why just be free, just live. Things are going to happen. Let them happen, and then you could calculate your next move. But have these expectations, to your point, just going to rob you of joy.
Absolutely. What was your major in college?
The most useless major there is, sports administration. Sports administration. So I was following the college basketball thing. I was a student manager. I was going to pursue being a basketball coach, and so I was a sports administration major. Graduated from the University of Louisville.
And what did you do after that?
So I graduated from the University of Louisville. It's a very high-level Division I basketball program, and Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino hired me as a video guy / his personal driver. So that's what I did my first year out of school. And then I got really close with one of the top assistants in the country at the time, Steve Masiello. He, after 1 year, got the head coaching job at Manhattan College here in Riverdale, a part of the Bronx in New York. And so I followed him here and then worked with him for 3 years at Manhattan College. And then at that point, I was 24, 25, and the problems that I had been running from started to creep up. And so I was dealing with a lot of stuff. I decided to get out of coaching and get into real estate.
Yeah. How do you go from going through all that stuff, these problems coming to you, and how do you know how to start bettering yourself, start forgiving yourself? How do you know how to start getting mentorship and more information so that you can be free?
Yeah, it's a great question. We only change when the discomfort of staying the same is greater than the discomfort of improving and bettering yourself. It's about 4 or 5 years ago. I was working in a high rise here in New York City, and I would go into work and I would just think of the reasons not to go to the roof and jump off. I was in a very, very dark place. And so it was either that. It was either do a lot of drugs, drink a lot, and just see what happens, commit suicide myself, or figure out a way through. And so that's when I decided to start making more. And I knew, like, we all know for the most part what to do. If you want to get in shape, eat less, move more. A lot of it is just logically simple, but we're emotional creatures, and you have to figure that part of it out to better yourself.
Yeah. But do you wake up one day and say, I'm tired of being tired?
Yeah, I woke up one day and I said, I'm really tired of feeling this way. And that's when I decided to really start taking my health seriously. I started to get mentors. And most importantly, I started to look internally and figure that stuff out.
Yeah, good for you. I mean, a lot of times when mentors that are doing online coaching are putting videos out there saying, hey, your physique, you're working out, what you're eating is the most important thing in your life right now to feel better. A lot of people make fun of it, but that with a little bit of sunlight can change your life massively, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really think 90% of our problems with feeling like shit come down to a couple things, just like you were talking about, just a relatively healthy diet, adequate amount of water, and a good night's sleep. Just start there. Because you take one of those away, like get 3 hours of sleep. I got 3 hours of sleep last night. I feel terrible. Don't drink enough water. You start to get headaches. You know, have a crappy diet where you're eating fast food all the time. Just one of those and you're all messed up. So if you start with the very basic stuff and you'll feel much better. Now, shit is still hard and you still got to deal with stuff, but it's much easier to deal with stuff when you take care of your basic needs first.
Yeah. How did you know what kind of mentors to choose or to follow?
I heard this great story, and there was a guy walking down a trail and he fell down into this deep hole. The walls were so big he couldn't get out of the hole. And a priest walks up and the guy says, "Father, can you help me out of the hole?" The priest says a prayer and keeps walking. So then a few minutes later, a doctor walks up and the guy goes, "Doc, can you let me out of this hole?" The doctor writes him a prescription and throws it down in the hole. The guy down in the hole, an hour goes by, and then his friend walks up. He goes, "Oh, you got to help me out. I've been stuck down here for 2 hours." The friend jumps down into the hole. The guy goes, "What are you doing? Now we're both stuck down here." The friend goes, "Yeah, but I've been down here before and I know how to get out." I heard that and then I looked for mentors that had similar experience as me. Maybe they were where I wanted to be in business, or maybe they had the same background as me and they were living a good life. And I sought those guys out. And so that's how I would advise anybody. If you want to be somewhere in business, look for someone that's already there, that's reputable. If you want to better your life, look for somebody who had the same background as you that has a better life. Seek them out. And you know how it is. Successful people in this world, they're willing to help out. But you mentioned online coaches, so many coaches online. Look at what they've done. If they haven't done anything, don't give them your money.
Yes. Yes. And also reading, even though, like myself, I hated reading. So a couple of years ago, when I was like really started into self-development, now I love it, right? But before I was like, really, do I have to read? But even if you do 1 page a day, 3 pages a day, these self-help books, if you look online, whichever ones really match you and go for what you're looking for, they'll be so powerful, so powerful. These little things, and sunlight, it's
Yeah, I agree. And it's so funny. I used to hate reading books. Ugh. But you're right. Even 1 page a day, because in that 1 page, there might be one word or one sentence that just flips something in your mind.
yes.
So I agree. Reading definitely helped save my life, and it's been very instrumental in a lot of my success. So I'm a big advocate of reading. I try to do I do 10-page minimum a day. I try to do more, but that's my baseline. Just get in 10 pages.
Yeah,
But like you
same.
said, even if you did 1 page, it's still a
It's still
benefit.
7 pages a week,
Yeah,
still 21 pages a month.
yeah,
So not bad. So you went into real estate. Why real estate out of everything? You said that your
yeah,
uncle wasn't in real estate, but you
yeah.
have wealth in real estate.
Well, I think there's two reasons. My uncle was the most wealthy guy I knew. Had a couple houses, had some really nice cars, and had a construction company. So there was that real estate aspect of it. But it's interesting. I used to think that landlord was a bad word. When I was young, we moved around a lot, and if there was a knock at the front door and my mom said it was the landlord, we knew to go and hide because we never had money for the rent. So I think there's a deeper part of me that I really enjoy helping people find adequate housing. So I think that's part of it. And then for sure, seeing my uncle at a young age pick me up in that BMW convertible really had an imprint on me. And so, and then, I really like the people aspect of it. You meet a lot of different people. There's always problems as an entrepreneur within the real estate space to handle, and it's very challenging, rewarding. But I would say those two things: not having adequate housing as a child, and then my uncle being in the real estate game, and me knowing that you could have a better life with real estate being the vehicle.
So how did you get started?
I got out of coaching and I just said, you know what, I got to do something else. I'm not going to do college basketball coaching. I got to do something else. And so I said, you know what, I'll just get my real estate license. So I just took a class, and then I joined a firm here in Manhattan and started working.
Yeah. I'm a realtor myself, and obviously I know what it takes to get going in the business. What would be your perspective as to realtors? Because basically it's the same thing regardless of the state.
Yeah, for sure.
Steps that you have to take to get yourself going outside of the licensing.
Yeah.
What would you say are like a few things that are important?
It's the same thing for sure any sales job, but anything in life, it's going to be hard. Especially in real estate now, you see $1 million listing, you see all these shows, and you see all this glam, and people just think they're going to come in and make millions of dollars. It's difficult, especially in the beginning. You have no network, right? And even if you do have a little bit of a network, you don't have any experience. So who's going to trust you with the $1 million purchase? You have to build up your network. You have to, get knocked down. My partner is a great example of what it takes to be successful in real estate. 12 years ago, in her first year in real estate, she closed 3 deals, not sale deals, rental deals. She now closes over 200 deals a year, makes multi-million dollars a year. But that first year, that first couple of years, it's a grind. It's funny. I always show this to my team, this hockey stick. And now I'm not a fan of hockey, but it's such a great analogy. Success is this for a long time. Being in real estate is this for a long time. And then you learn and learn and learn. You start to get some momentum, some traction, and then it goes like this. But most people quit right here. And so that's what I would say to anybody getting into real estate or any business. Decide to be in it for the long haul. Because you decide to be in it for the long haul, you take the pressure off of being successful today. Because that's what everyone, I got to close the deal today. No, I'm going to be in this for the long run. It makes it easier to go through the day to day. And then you'll get to that point where it goes like that. Because we all know those agents that have been in the game for 20 years and it seems like they have all these deals and it's so easy for them. It's easier today, but they have 20 years. It took them 20 years to be an overnight success. Yes,
absolutely. And also just like for everything, I realized that work finds you when you're working. Really, once you get into that space where you're grinding, you'll start finding those things will be attracted to you because you're creating that sort of environment.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned victim mindset earlier. The victim just sits on the couch complaining about everything and complaining that no opportunities are coming to them, but they're sitting there not doing anything. The grinder, like you just said, they're out there, they're doing things, they're talking to people, they're failing, they're getting no's, they're getting rejected, but they're out there doing stuff, and then things start to come to you. The universe is very interesting. When you make a decision and you take action, things start to come to you.
Absolutely. And so, but you were working for a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning.
Yep.
And then how was it that, because it's a very big decision to say, I am going to go from someone else covering the overhead, from someone else overseeing everything when it comes to the business and really just focusing on my solo business. I'm going to go from that to having the overhead on my shoulders and everyone else being my responsibility. How did that come to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I actually was a realtor for 4.5 years, and then I decided to take a salary job and work for a real estate developer here in the city. And I was running some of his residential leasing offices, and I did that for 6 years. So that was the job that I quit to start the brokerage. And what had happened was, I had the turning point where I started to get my life together, right? So I'm feeling good. I get my life together. I get out of debt. I save up my money, and I read all these books. I watch all these podcasts, but I'm not doing shit. And I just got so uncomfortable in my own skin. I said, no, I can do something. I believe it. I know that I can go out and do something, but I'm not. And it was like this happiness gap where I felt I could be this, but my actions are this. So one day, I literally woke up one day, I said, today's the day. I'm quitting. I called my boss. I put in my notice. And it's interesting. And that was about 19 months ago. And I didn't really have a plan to open up the brokerage. I had a couple conversations with my now partner. We decided to open up the brokerage. And yeah, it's been tough. And you have all the responsibility on your shoulders, and you have these people that are relying on you. And it's very difficult. But that happiness gap, I'm going like this because I'm actually taking action. Regardless of money, regardless of anything else, I'm on the path of trying to become what it is I believe that I can become.
Yeah. And did you choose that name?
I chose the name, yeah.
And what does that name mean to you?
So it's a very fitting name. In real estate, you align buyers and sellers, renters and landlords. Me and my partner's from Shanghai, China. So we align different cultures. And that's the baseline meaning. The deeper meaning for me is when I was trying to get my life together, I was all out of alignment, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally. So the deeper meaning of alignment for me is when I'm making positive decisions in all areas of my life, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, on a daily basis, I get myself in alignment. And then it's much easier for me to take the actions that I know I need to do to get the success that I want. So that's the deep meaning of alignment for me.
Huh. So your partner, it's interesting because your partner is from China.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm assuming that most of her clientele, or a big number of her clientele, are from her same ethnicity. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's that. It's a very interesting part, and it's whenever somebody told me this before I started the brokerage, and they say, hey, if you have a partner in business, you got to do one of two things. Make sure neither of you need money right now today. Because if either of you needs money right now today, you're going to make decisions based off of that, and it's not going to be what's best for the company. The other thing is make sure both of you bring different things to the table. And that's me and my partner couldn't be any more different.
Yeah.
She's Chinese, I'm American. She has her niche, I have my niche, but we combine those resources together and we're able to go much further. We're able to service much more people.
Most definitely. And you're learning the language as well.
I am.
I've seen it. How's that going?
And how? It's going very well. It's I've been studying for over a year. It's very difficult, but I'm past the point of where it's frustrating. Now it's kind of cool. I can put words together and say some things. And every Sunday I make my brother come with me and film me. And we go to Chinatown here in the city and I practice. And that's really helped me get better. But it's challenging, but it's also rewarding. As I'm getting older, I feel it's helping my mind, stay sharp, learning a new language.
It's so nice to learn about other cultures. It's great that you're doing, especially if she's your partner. But it's so interesting how there's this alignment, like you said, of different cultures. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So now you have the business, and obviously with all the pressure of business that we know is out there, whenever that voice shouldn't be there, that lies, that says, hey, this is not going right, this is, how do you snap out of it? Do you have steps to get back in alignment?
Such a great question. Um, when I get really, really tough days, I just try to pivot my mind to think of it as a challenge. Like these are the days that people actually get better. If all the days were good, you wouldn't improve. So, okay, I'm blessed with this challenging day. And if I can get through it, I'm going to be better at the end of it. I also talk to my team a lot about this kind of ups and downs of life. And you can get in these really dark valleys for months and you can be really high. Staying in alignment, you're still going to have challenges, but the downs don't go as far. And so, I meditate on a daily basis. You were talking about reading the self-help books. I do that on a daily basis. I have a gratitude practice that I do. I send love to one person each day. I try to drink enough water. I try to get a good night's sleep. So I have all these little things that I do to try to stack together to help me stay in alignment. But the big thing I do when you're in it, because when you're in it, you're not thinking about those things. I think about what's one thing I can do right now to make the situation better.
Mm.
And think of it as a challenge and make it a game. Because after all, it is a game. We're just out here playing this game. And I just got a tough level today. And if I can get through it, I'm going to be a little bit better.
Most definitely. And I know that you've started to surround yourself at a certain point by the people that you wanted to become. Is that something that's important to you? Those people that you spend your time with, how do you choose those individuals?
It's extremely important. And one thing that really helped me get my life together was getting negative, shitty people out of my life. And a lot of times we hold on to people because we've known them for so long or because it's comfortable. And then if we sit there and think about it, say, wow, I just kind of go out and drink with this person. They don't bring any value to my life. One big thing is you got to cut negative people out of your life. Cut them out. Because a negative person is a cancer and it will get to you. Cut them out of your life. Only surround yourself with people who want you to succeed and you want them to succeed. And here's a little tip. If somebody is indifferent about your success, they're not for you. You need to cut them out too. So I'm ruthless with that. And I try to keep my circle very, very small because most people are negative. And I only surround myself with people that are, one, improving themselves, are for my success, I'm for their success, and other mentors that either have a similar background as me, that have a very good life, or that are ahead of me in business, and I want to learn from them. And that's it. Keep it small.
Yeah, it's the hardest thing to do, to say, you know what, that's it. Even though you don't have to say anything to people, you can just distance yourself, not to be rude, or as long as
Yeah.
you. That's the hardest thing to do.
It's hard in the beginning, but it gets easier. It gets easier once you cut somebody out and your life starts to improve. You say, "Oh wow." Once that happened to me, it wasn't hard anymore. If you're a negative,
It is.
That's it. Yeah.
So, going back to alignment real estate, where's different between every other real estate company and the customer service within alignment real estate?
Yeah, I think that I really look at alignment as a self-development company. Like we're just in all areas of our life, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, trying to improve and support each other. And if you do that, you're much more equipped to service your clients. And a big thing that I harp on is just becoming a resource and over delivering for your clients in real estate and out of real estate. And what I mean by that is if I get someone that comes to me and we're working together and I hear about some issue that they're having that I have a connection with or that I know I can help solve, we're going to help solve it. I'm always thinking about different ways to over deliver. And there's a great book about this called Unreasonable Hospitality. And it's about the restaurant business, but there's a lot of parallels to any sales job. So I think, and then, we have the different cultural aspect. And it's not just Chinese and American. Our operations manager is from the Dominican Republic. Our marketing director is from Taiwan. We have an agent from Uzbekistan, from Israel, from India. So very, very diverse diverse company. And when you have that, you have a lot of different um, points of view, but you also have a lot of different resources to help service the clients.
Most definitely. And obviously, customer service will always be king when it comes to transactions because people are, purchasing. Not a lot of people are just investing,
Mm,
they're purchasing for themselves, their family.
mm.
It's their money, it's their wealth. So they need you to be there for them every step of the way, which is important because then every person that is selling, whether you're helping sell or lease, whatever the case may be, you're changing people's lives. We don't think about it that much. It's not just opening doors, it's really we're part of the decision on where they're going to go next,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And you brought up a good point about every step of the way. And one thing we believe here is extreme ownership of the whole transaction from start to finish and helping all the moving parts, whether they have a mortgage person, need to set up an inspection, we got the closing, they need help with movers, whatever it is, service the whole from start to finish.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about executive chauffeur. How does that come alive?
Sure. Yeah, so I was using the car service for about 8 months, and then I met the owner, my now partner, and really young, up and coming. Well, I believe he's going to be a very successful guy in the transportation industry, and we started to talk. He was hitting a point of growth where he thought that I could help, and then we decided to form a new company together, which was great because he had already had the infrastructure, and then I just bring my resources, and we kind of married those together and the growth has been extreme since we partnered together. And it's great because all my clients use these types of cars anyway, and a lot of my clients' cars we use, they lease them out to us. So it's a lot of synergy there. And now I have alignment water bottles in all the cars. So people get into the car, they say, oh, what's alignment? They
That's
scan the
smart.
QR code. It's, oh, it's a real estate company. They start to ask the drivers about it. And so there's a lot of synergy there.
It's a full service. And the thing is, in New York City, it works wonderfully because everyone uses vehicles that are not yours to move around, unlike Los Angeles.
Absolutely. And they just passed, they started some surge pricing this week. So even less people are driving. And yeah, so there's a lot of synergy there. It's been challenging, of course, as you know, but any business is, but it's been very rewarding.
Yeah. The I had said this in the beginning, and it's important to always keep in mind, and as an entrepreneur, that we get to do this. We don't have to.
Mm,
There are plenty of jobs out there that we can apply to and be part of. So as an entrepreneur, we have to see every single day, every single obstacle as an opportunity of growth. It's interesting because 2024, and because this is the first one, I'm still talking about 2024, but because it was powerful to so many things. And one of those things was, for me, I believe in God. For others might be other names, right? But
mhm.
I was under the impression that when things go wrong, a lot of times I got used to saying, oh, it's the enemy. Oh, it's the enemy doing it. It's the enemy sending it. And then I learned that most of the time it's God hardening the heart of that person to hurt you so that you move on to your next chapter in life. It is God allowing you to fail in that business so that you're stronger for your new next business. If nothing happens and everything's steady and nothing is hurting and there are no obstacles, that means we're not growing. That means we're not moving forward and closer to where we want to get, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of great points in there. I think it just comes down to your perspective. You know, two people go through the same business problem. One could take a victim mindset to it, and the other could take the victor mindset to it. And like, what's the opportunity here? Like you said, like, okay, this might be a problem, but if I can get through it, I'm going to be prepared for what God is bringing me.
Yes, what's
But if I
coming next? Something
yeah,
great must be coming next.
exactly.
Something strong
Exactly.
and powerful. Mathiew, what is one thing or things that you've had to quit in order to become successful, in order to become this you? And congratulations on getting here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. One thing I had to quit. I would say I had to quit talking shit to myself. I had to quit putting myself down, telling my, nobody in the world lied to me more than I lied to myself, and I had to stop that. I had to quit the negative self-talk. And the mind is funny. The mind is like a garden. A garden, you don't tend to it, the weeds start to grow. Your mind, you don't put positive things into it, it defaults negative. And so I really had to quit that. And once I quit that, because mindset is everything. Once I quit that and changed my mindset, the rest of my life has followed.
Absolutely. That's the most, basically, that's the most basic and powerful thing out of all.
Yeah.
Because we know ourselves as nobody else does. So we have the tools to hurt ourselves more than anyone else could ever do it.
Absolutely.
That's our power. So if we can actually help ourselves grow as much, we should probably go that way instead.
1000%.
I appreciate you so much for sharing all these golden nuggets with us and being here and being so vulnerable and sharing your story. I'm sure that it can have an impact on the people that are going through it. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. And I look forward to meeting you in person the next time I'm in LA.
Definitely. Thank you so much, you guys, for tuning in for another episode of Successful Quitters. My name is Sara Nunez Bee, and I will see you on the next one.